There was a lot of work to be done in preparation of our passage from Tonga to New Zealand. Everyone in the crew had some tasks assigned to them in preparation of the departure. Some of the tasks included buying lumber and making storm boards to cover all the windows should waves arrive, refueling so that we could motor should the wind stop, cleaning the hull for biosecurity in New Zealand, and buying lots of food. With all of the preparations out of the way, we set sail on a Saturday afternoon, leaving the island of Tongatapu. We celebrated the start of our departure with some alfagados at sunset. Everyone on the boat was required to wear life vests and tethers to jack lines so that no one fall overboard as we head south, along with migrating whales. The winds were strong those first 2 days, and we pounded into big waves with 3 sails flying and going about 7.5 knots. We sailed straight through the night, and that first night, despite our remoteness, Kanye was with us. For the first day and a half, we were on a port tack, and then finally, jibe. We were sailing on starboard, and we crossed out of the tropics by going over the Tropic of Capricorn and into the subtropics. And another jibe so that we were back on port as we approached our destination. But just before we got where we were going, the autopilot went out. We had dubbed our autopilot Jerry, and Captain Sam, spent a lot of time with Jerry, hanging out under the boards of the aft cabin, trying to get Jerry back in line so that he could do all the steering for us. Despite the autopilot mishap, we sailed onward, and we arrived at our first destination, North Minerva Reef, a reef atoll in the middle of the Pacific. Depending on the tide, the reef is either a few inches above sea level or a few feet below. Even when above sea level, water streams over the surface of the reef until it gets to the interior ring and then cascades down a little waterfall. We all stopped because a storm was coming. The reef is really wide and has about a mile or more interior diameter, and it was enough to house 30 boats. All in all, we spent 5 days in Minerva Reef. We almost didn't stop. That first day, the arrival of a storm was foreshadowed by a rotten egg. There were 2 high pressure zones, and between them, a low pressure, and they were so close together they created a squash zone of high winds. So we doubled down on the anchors and then took a windy night and a long rainy day and a half with some lightning on slightly rolly waves, but all in all protected on the inside of the reef. Then the weather cleared, but the winds were still strong, so we went diving and saw what there was to see on the inside as waves battered the exterior. On the 4th day, the sun came out and gave us a spectacular sunset. One of the other boats called for a social happy hour of standing on the reef and passing around a bottle of rum. It happened to be Halloween that night, so we carved a green Tongan pumpkin and named him Stew. Then, on the 5th day, it was time to go. Before we would go, we decided to dive the outer reef on the exterior of the atoll. On the exterior of the atoll, the reef wall falls from sea level down to 1,000 feet in no time flat. We saw some exceptional fish there, like large tuna. And we saw many other exceptional fish, like Galapagos and hammerhead sharks. It all started when Jesse saw the hammerhead shark and called Sam to bring the boat over to help him get out of the water, leaving yours truly stranded to swim back to the boat 50 or so yards by himself, and then joined with a shark escort detail. Oh my God, sharks! Turns out sharks are sometimes just curious creatures, and everyone got back on board safely, thank goodness. And Havili set out with all the other boats, headed south again towards New Zealand.